Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really fun card. We're going to use stencils and stamps. We're going to get inky so your hands will look like mine by the time you're done, promise you. But you're going to learn a lot and have some fun too. We're going to use some stencils from Stencil Girl. They have some really hip, popular stencils right now. And of course, we're going to use stamps from Lost Coast Design. That's that little crow there. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to make this neat background paper. And what I'm working on is actually some photo paper. And the reason I'm working on this basically is because I had a bunch of it and my printer doesn't take 4x6 sheets anymore. So I think it makes really wonderful backgrounds. It gives you really good detail. And I'm going to use a peacock stencil from Stencil Girl. And I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to center it right in the middle of my paper. And I've just got a little scrap of white paper in the background to collect any overspray. And what I'm going to use is actually a this Kids Blendy pen mister, just because I like it actually. It's kind of a fun product and it works really well, and I think you can get a kit that's got the markers and the little squirter thing and a bunch of stencils and stuff at the craft store. I think, gosh, I'm thinking it was probably around 20 bucks and I used a coupon, something like that. But anyways, the markers are really juicy, and not only do I have fun with it, but my kids do as well. And what I'm going to do is just lift up, and you can see the beautiful detail on that, but I'm actually going to move it around and keep spraying it until I fill up this whole background, so I can change my colors as I go. These are very easy to change in and out. Of course, if you have the Stampin' Up! Marker Spritzer or the Tim Holtz one or the Marco's paper one, go ahead and use that with your stamping markers. That's fine. Or whatever sort of marker squirter tool you have, or heck, grab a sponge and sponge some on. That's fine. Use whatever you have. See, it looks really cool when you start layering them up. And remember, you can trim it down if you need to. Now, photo paper is a little different than glossy paper, and sometimes you can't change a technique. Sometimes you have to have glossy paper. But the cool thing about photo paper, it has a very distinct advantage, and it's that it dries almost instantly. So when I'm doing this and I am moving my stencil around, I'm not worrying about the ink underneath getting smeared, because it dries instantly practically from whenever you when you set it down. So that's the big advantage of using photo paper. So there, and you can pick this up at like a dollar store or office supply store on the clearance. You know, you don't have to buy the most expensive. I would just get whatever you can find on sale, because it's gonna be fine. You know, when I'm printing photos, I make sure I get the Canon Pixma paper or the HP paper, but when I'm doing stamping, you can pretty much use anything. I apologize for the sound of my furnace in the background, but there's nothing I can do about it this time of the year. Just keep filling in this area. Let's see, maybe we'll go with this darker green. Put a little bit of that light in there first. And don't worry about the ink that's collecting up on the stencil. I'll show you a way to recycle that in a minute. Just keep on squirting and spraying and moving that stencil. This would be pretty just to squirt on the edge of an envelope or something, just to give it a little extra flair. Oh, I want to use some of this light green. I haven't used much of this light. I don't think I've used this light green at all, and I really like it. You can really layer and build up your colors. Now, I want to invite you to come to my blog on Monday, March 24th, because I'll be giving away some product from Stencil Girl and Lost Coast Design, so you're not going to want to miss that. You're going to want to make sure that you check that out so you can find out how you can win some stencils and stamps, because hey, we all love free stuff, don't we? At least I do. I don't know about you. And I'm going to do one more over here with those two lighter colors. You want to make sure you don't plug up the end while you're doing this. This is probably quite dull, isn't it? I probably should have I probably should have paused this. But you know, sometimes I notice when I pause the video, people, especially if I've been explaining along, people that don't speak English, often they don't understand what I'm doing, so that just kind of helps to see it all together. So there, that's kind of a cute background there. You can adjust the colors for whatever you want. So now we got the stencil that's got all this ink collected on it. So what we can do with this is actually grab an envelope, and I'm actually going to just kind of press this on the edge of the envelope just to give it a little bit of a decoration. And I like to decorate the envelope because it gives you a hint as to what is inside the card. Now sometimes this works really well and you get a beautiful color. Sometimes you've used a lot of colors and you get mud. So it's kind of hard to tell what's going to happen. This is one I did on photo paper after I made the background for my card here, and it was just glorious. But I don't know how this one's going to come out, so I'll have to take a look here. It might be black, but even so, oh, it's still pretty though. That's still going to be lovely on a lovely on the envelope, and plenty of room to write the who and the what and the where. All right, I'm gonna set that aside. I'll have to wipe that off later because these are water-based inks, and if I don't wipe off my stencil, it's gonna smear on the next project that I do. So if you're using like an acrylic ink, maybe you don't have to clean it. I usually wipe it off just because I don't want it transferring onto my next project. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you another technique with the stencils. So I also had this other stencil, and some of you beware, some of you guys are going to cringe and totally freak out when you see this. So I got this other stencil and it was 3 feathers, and I thought, you know, this would be way more useful to me if I chopped it apart, and that's what I did. And so don't freak out, but I'm going to show you why I did that. That's how I made the embossed stencils. It kind of looks like I used a die cut, huh? See, 3-dimensional embossing. Now here are some that are not colored. You can kind of see, hopefully in the light, it's very hard for me to tell with my monitor. So you can kind of see that that's all embossed. So to do that, here's what I did. I took the, I set my die cut machine up so it would, just like I was going to emboss a die. And I got my squishy pad there on top of a cutting pad. And then I put my paper down. And this is great because you can use your scraps. That's why, one of the reasons I cut it apart. Then you put your stencil on top, cutting pad on top, and just run it through. Just make sure you have a nice clean cutting pad on top so you don't emboss little scratches on the top of your paper. And that's all there is to it, to embossing those stencils. Now hopefully I don't lose my stencils now that I've cut them apart, but it was just more useful to me to have it like that. So don't be afraid to alter your supplies so they work better for you. So now what I'm going to do is grab these feathers and ink them up with some ink pads. I'm going to use pink and purple, and I'm using these Whispers pads. I'm not sure if they're still available anymore, but the thing I like about them is they've got this compressed foam pad, and look at that. That's all I have to do. I don't have to get out an applicator. I don't have to you know, get out a sponge or do anything fancy. All I have to do is just rub it with the ink pad and call it a day. So if you can still find, and I've re-inked these with Stampin' Up! Re-inkers, and they're fine. So I think it just has something to do with that really, really dense, it's the densest foam pads I've ever used. And I got this at AC Moore like 100 years ago with a 50% off coupon, so I paid like 16 bucks for 30 of them, so it's quite a deal. And now you're simply going to cut out your feathers here. Just, you know, take your time and do the best you can. And what I'm going to do is actually pause this because I'm cutting out stencils. I think everyone has a grasp on that. We'll be back after I've cut both of those out. Almost done here. Every time I see people buy the matching dies that go with their stamps, I think to myself, I've got a tool that will cut out every one of my stamps, and it's called a pair of scissors. That's one thing. I remember going to the stamp show, I just couldn't get over how many of those dies that match stamps that were out there. I was like, oh my gosh, if I had to buy a die for every stamp I owned, I would be broke. Not only would I be broke, I couldn't afford to do it. That's absolutely true. Okay, so we got these. I just think this is just the coolest thing ever. I'm telling ya. No line is safe to touch ever. Oh, only people from Maine will get that. Sorry about that. I digress. Anyway, we got a background. We've got our little stencil. Leaves are so freaking cool. And now what are we going to do? We are going to do some stamping. Yes, we are. So I got some little circles here. We're going to use this one. That looks like a good circle to me. And we are going to take our rubber stamp from Lost Coast Designs. And so I have a lot of supplies, and I have some fancy supplies, wicked fancy supplies. And, you know, some people say, hey, Lindsay, you said we can use whatever markers you have, but you're using these fancy artist markers that cost like $1 million, so what about the kids' ones? Can you do a video showing us how to use, you know, the kids' supplies? Well, here you go, sweetheart. I got some kids' supplies for you today. Oh my gosh, can you tell I'm like on... I'm a little wacky, actually. I've only had a little coffee today, but I get a kid home from school with a tummy bug, and I've got kids due off the bus in like 5 minutes, so I'm just like, you know, cooking with fire. So I'm going to breathe on this to re-moisten the ink because I got a lot of hot air, and I'm going to stamp it. Easy as pie. And when I stamp, I give it a second for the ink to transfer off the rubber onto the paper. So there's a little tip for you. There we go. Look at that. Looks like $1 million marker, doesn't it? I think so. Okay. Oh my, I'm too impressed with myself today. Now what I'm going to do is locate a scrap of paper. This one will do nicely, and I'm going to tear it. There we go. Isn't that fancy? Now what I'm going to do is set this down here. Actually, I want the other side. And I'm going to set this up here above his little claw, feet, paws, whatever you want to call them. What do they have? Talons? I don't know. Anyone know? And then I'm going to grab another ink pad. This blue one will do nicely. And I'm just going to ink the bottom of my circle here. And then I'm also going to grab my little squirty marker thing. And I think I'll actually use a little black, which is over here, under a pile of miscellaneous supplies. Let me line my little thing up there again and give him a little shadow. And let's see, what else do I want to do? I think I'll also ink the edges. You know what, actually, I think I'll give a little squirts of this too to make it a little bit, to kind of bridge the gap between the smooth blue and the speckly black. Oh, I love these markers. Can you tell? These are awesome. I went through a period where I would go into AC Moore all the time with my coupons and buy these sets for kids for their birthdays. I thought it was the coolest gift. Alright, I'm just going to ink the edges here. Hopefully my fingers aren't so filthy that I don't smudge ink all over the crow. And I'm just doing pink because I like pink. You can do whatever color you want. No rhyme or reason. I try to keep reusing the same colors throughout the design so that so it has some harmony, but you know, that black is brand new. That's alright though, because it's going to just kind of give it a little grounding. That's why I did that. Showa. Alright. So now, let's see, we done our messy stuff? Yes, we are. I can get rid of this paper. It'll be easier for you to see what I'm doing with it. And oh, another little tip I want to share with you. I really enjoy these matte stacks. They are designed to mat 4x6 photos, so they're 4.5 by 6.5. That makes it ideal to layer on a 5x7 card. So I've been actually buying more of these than 12x12 paper lately. And the other thing is, I don't have to feel wasteful like I'm cutting into a 12x12 piece of paper just to get a matting layer for a card. So there's another little tip for you. Of course, my basket of these is overflowing, so I really need to use some of them up before I buy any more. So what we're going to do is we're going to layer our background. We're going to trim our little background down. I forgot. These have little, actually, this photo paper has little perforations on it because it is a 4x6, so I can actually just tear those away. And I'll ink the edges there, make them stand out. I think I kept it at 4x6. We'll see. We'll see, won't we? It's always a surprise. Sometimes I forget how I made something, and then I go to do it again, and it's like, oh, that wasn't it. Ah, yes, that's nice. So where's my purple ink pad? Here we go. Oh my gosh, should have saw my desk before I started this video. I couldn't even, I had like a 2" by 2" square in front of me to work on. I had it totally clean before I could record it. Oh my. There we go, and you can kind of smudge in any little gaps where you didn't get enough ink. And you could even go over the whole thing if you wanted to veil a color, like with a blue or, you know, whatever your favorite is. And that's clean. I'm going to put some, hopefully sometimes I've noticed this adhesive doesn't like to stick to all surfaces, but it's sticking fine to this. There we go. I feel like I'm going to sneeze in a minute. I apologize in advance because I think I'm going to sneeze. So feel a sneeze. Oh, now it's stuck. Now it's crooked. Now I'm worried about my sneeze and my paper's crooked. Oh, good grief. There we go. Yeah, don't forget giving away supplies. when you're just ready to stop the video and be like, oh, Lindsay, this isn't good. Alright, and why don't we stick that onto our card base while we're at it, before we get anything too thick and bumpy on there. And these card bases are actually quite flimsy, but I do like to grab them because they go on sale. They're like 50 cards and envelopes. They go on sale for $5 at the craft store, AC Moore and Joann's, I think. So so I do grab them because they're just, you know, they're convenient. They're not the best quality. They're not the not the greatest, but I use them and they work for me. So I'm going to center that right on there. So now we've got those 3 pretty layers. It's going to be a nice backdrop for our card. We're going to use some foam adhesive. We're going to stick that guy down with some foam adhesive. And this is actually a very inexpensive card to make, which is nice. You know, I look at things like stamps and stencils as, you know, they're non-consumables. So, you know, every time you use them, it actually gets cheaper to use them. So if I've used this crow set, the first time I use it, say the crow set was $8. And the first time you use it, it's like, okay, that card cost you, you know, the $8 for the stamps plus whatever you used. But then the next time you use that stamp set, it only cost $4 because you've used it twice. So, you know, if you've used this, you know, 100 times, it cost, I'm really bad at math, so like a couple pennies to use it. So that's why I think of my supplies. So if I get this bargain stamp set at, you know, the store for $2 and I never use it, that's always costing me $2, where like this ones that are my favorite that I use all the time cost me like 3 cents. So, you know, little enabling there for you in case you need any help. All right, so I got some real feathers here. I don't know why I've got that accent going. So, probably because somebody gave me a hard time about saying drawing instead of drawing, I guess. I don't know, I say it wrong apparently. And so I'm thinking I should just let the whole main accent come on out, because then they would, drawing would be the least of their worries. There we go, a little hot glue. I always have my glue gun plugged in. I'm going to stick that in there. I'm going to put this little other feather in there too. Get a nice texture. I have a huge bucket of feathers. I love feathers. They're so fun for kids crafts, but they're also add a really lovely texture to your work. And let's see, let's just kind of lay them down for a second and see where we want them to go. I made a bunch of clay embellishments a while back, and I had these beautiful, this tin of buttons my mother had given me. They were my Grammy's buttons, and I cast some of them and I made molds. And so I have a few of these, and just deciding what one I want to use. I think I want to use that one. So that way I didn't have to use my precious buttons. I could use, I could make as many as I wanted, and I still have my original Grammy buttons there in the tin, and then they can always be there. So I can hoard them, but I can still use them, so it's best of both worlds. I have a video on that somewhere. Feel free to peruse my YouTube channel. And subscribe while you're there. I have almost 30,000 subscribers. Holy cannoli. I checked this morning and I was like, oh my gosh! It's very exciting. Very exciting. Alright, so we're going to hot glue this puppy down because I don't think it's going to stick with the foam. I think I am going to put a little foam in there, a couple pieces, just to kind of brace it, elevate it a little bit. Yeah, let's put a couple of those in there just to kind of act as scaffolding underneath. There we go. It's not really going to stick because the feather's in the way. The real feather's in the way, keeping it not stickable. And the hot glue will do the trick, as hot glue often does. I don't know how people get by without a hot glue gun. I really don't. Give me hot glue and some recycled cardboard and I can make anything. Alright. I'll put a little button there. Beautiful. And, whoa, I almost burnt my hands off there with the glue gun. Don't do that. Don't burn your hands off! Okay, was there anything else I need for this card? Or is it just fabulous? I think it's just fabulous. So there you have it. A very fun and easy card using stencils from Stencil Girl, using stamps from Lost Coast Designs. And make sure you check out my blog, link below, on Monday, March 24th, because you'll have a chance to win some. It's a little spoiler. It's a little sneaky piggy. Not everybody gets that kind of information, you know. Alright, there you have it. A couple cards. Hope you enjoyed. And please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video, and check out the Facebook page, link is below if you want to share your work. Thank you so much for watching this crazy video, and until next time, happy crafting!